welcome to another session in our two-day virtual summit, Prepare for Prime Day. Today we're going to be talking about how to develop a data-driven Prime Day strategy. My name is Jake Merrill. I'm an advertising strategist here at Marketplace Strategy, and I'm joined with Sam Jennings, lead client strategist and co-founder.
Hey, everybody.
Today's agenda. So we're going to go through a lot of different things today. Really the overall goal, though, is talking about how you should view Prime Day. First, we're going to go through a Prime Day mindset and really how you should be thinking about Prime Day, leading up to it, the day of, and after. We're going to talk about defining your objectives. There's a lot of different objectives out there, so we're going to go through some of the different ones that we tend to see around Prime Day and talk through pros and cons of each of them. We're going to talk through how to develop and choose your assortment strategy. So which product should you actually focus on when it comes to promoting products on Prime Day? And then last, we're going to go through an action plan. So what different things should you be doing? How should you view developing an action plan for your Prime Day strategy? So the Prime Day mindset. We put together basically 3 rules that kind of summarize the way we like to have our clients view Prime Day. Because Prime Day really is a different day from all other days when it comes to your overall sales goals in general in terms of e-commerce, but specifically with Amazon, it's such a big day. And so really it requires a specific mindset leading up to it and the day of. So for the 3 rules, really, we break it down to 1, you have to be ready to spend a good amount of money in order to be successful. You want to really not worry too much about profitability. Obviously, you want to have an eye on profitability, but don't look for Prime Day to be a day where you're going to be really focused on margin and being super profitable. But then the biggest rule here is we want to make sure that we're thinking about long-term growth. So really, we can dive in a little bit deeper into each of these, but at a high level, this is really the way you should be viewing Prime Day. So in regards to being ready to spend, I think everyone knows that when it comes to Prime Day, it's super important to make sure that you have some budget set aside if you want to be really impactful on Prime Day. And so obviously, depending on how big your brand or company is, that dollar amount is going to change. And as well, depending on how many products that you want to be promoting, this dollar amount is going to change. We have other sessions in this 2-day summit where we go over different promotion types, other things that really your budget's going to play directly into. But in general, know that you're going to want to have incremental dollars assigned to Prime Day in order to really be effective. When it comes to profitability, it shouldn't be your main concern. And so by that, don't view Prime Day as an area to really build a lot of sales and be super profitable. We're going to talk about it more throughout the rest of this webinar, but really profitability isn't going to be the main focus here. It's going to be increasing your sales velocity. So really the easiest way to do that here is having a big spike in sales on Prime Day. Having said that, you want to think about profitability. Obviously, you don't want to have a huge loss on this one day and leading up to it. But if you're able to look at all these different factors of your business, look at the different products that you have on Amazon, and kind of, if you can afford to potentially be a little bit less profitable on this one day and get a large amount of top line revenue, you'll be able to see really good results in the days and months following Prime Day. But the biggest thing we want to really point out here, and it's going to be something that we talk about throughout the rest of this webinar, and it's going to be something that you're going to hear all of our teammates as you listen to some of the other webinars that are part of this 2-day summit, is we really want to talk about this should be a long-term thing. Don't view Prime Day as one thing. Don't even view it as 1 week. Think about how you can utilize the increase in traffic to Amazon on Prime Day to help you have long-term growth for specific products that are important to you and your company. So diving in a little bit deeper into that long-term thought, we want to talk a little bit about the flywheel effect, and really this kind of summarizes why you want to view Prime Day as a long-term thing, not just looking to have success for one day.
Cool, thanks, Jake. So, yeah, I mean, when we look at the flywheel effect, just to kind of take a step back a little bit, this is kind of something that applies to all of Amazon, and a lot of marketers are familiar with kind of within the Amazon ecosystem. So, just to kind of look at this from a high level, the idea here is that one of Amazon's biggest ranking factors in how you drive increases in sales is through growing something called sales velocity. So if we're able to drive more people to our pages and convert at a higher rate and continue to get more sales, we're going to in turn increase our organic rankings, which is really the way that we're going to drive kind of that long-term, those long-term increases in sales. So that's kind of a foundational piece of understanding how Amazon works, but it also really applies specifically to Prime Day. If you think about it from the standpoint of what Jake was speaking to, really the idea here is that we're making this initial kind of large investment in this one day. We shouldn't be viewing this one day as being kind of in a bucket or really trying to gain a large amount of profitability or sales just from that one day. We should be thinking about how this one day is going to affect the virtuous cycle or the flywheel effect. So by spiking sales during this short period of time, and also before and after this Prime Day, we're going to be able to influence the sales velocity, influence the flywheel effect here, and really have the ability to impact our sales in the following 30 days, in the following 3 months, following 6 months, and kind of for the lifetime of whatever products you choose to leverage for Prime Day. So this is a super important, foundational key area to kind of focus on and think about as you are making your investments and thinking about the different products that you want to leverage during Prime Day. So next, we're going to look at all the different potential objectives when it comes to kind of looking at Prime Day and how it's going to have that long-term effect on your sales. So this is kind of the idea of looking at a lot of different examples. I mean, there's a ton of different scenarios and goals that you can have when it comes to Prime Day. So Jake is going to walk us through kind of the 4 most common objectives that we see with our clients and brands.
Thanks, Sam. So yeah, like Sam just mentioned, there are a lot of different options, and you'll notice here we will go through kind of what we've identified as the best strategy in terms of how do we have the biggest impact long term. But I think it is valuable to look at all of these different options. And so really we chose 4 that are the ones that we see time and again when we work with clients as to how they are looking to really take advantage of that increase in traffic and that really focused time of Prime Day. How are we seeing brands typically looking at Prime Day? And so you can see here the 4 we've identified are liquidate, launch, boost, and accelerate. So let's go a little bit more into each of those and talk through more specifically what that means or what that could mean for your brand on Prime Day. So liquidate, and so this would be when you want to really move old or end-of-life products that maybe aren't going to be a focus for you and your brand moving forward. And so, like I mentioned before, and like we all know, Prime Day is huge. There's a lot of people going to Amazon, and they're even more than normal in this really big shopping mindset. They're ready to purchase. So when you have a lot of people, on Amazon ready to do that, it could be a good opportunity to get rid of some products or sell through some products that you don't really have the time maybe to wait to move through them. So what we oftentimes see here is if there's a new version of a product coming out in say 3 to 6 months, and you really just want to get through the inventory that you have for the older product, you can use Prime Day to really move through that. So by having a really good offer, so say 30% off or even more, you can really move the needle and get rid of a lot of those units that you don't really want to have moving forward. Having said that, I think this is typically a pretty good opportunity to do that if this is something that's important to your business. And we're going to talk through more later some of the different things and factors or inputs that you want to look at when determining which products you're going to select to actually promote on Prime Day. But this is a pretty good strategy if the only goal you have is moving through some inventory that you just want to do it quickly. But when it comes to long-term effects, this isn't really going to be helpful for that. So, you wouldn't really see a benefit 12 months from now by liquidating the products that are end of life, which is really, from our perspective, we want to make sure that we're focusing on moves that can help us long-term on Amazon. Another thing that we tend to see is brands really trying to use Prime Day as a really jumping off point and launching new products. So I think in general, we see why that would make sense, right? Once again, there's a lot of people going to Amazon on this day. They're, once again, in that really big shopper mindset. They're ready to spend money. They're looking for deals. And you might think that if you had a new product that got launched and you could put a nice little discount on it, that you would be likely to be able to move the needle and really start to open up that flywheel and create initial sales for a new product. One of the issues with that, though, is I guess we'd say two main issues that we typically see when trying to launch new products around or like on Prime Day is one, reviews, and two, the lack of benefit that you'll have when Amazon's looking at your product in terms of like organic or just sales history. So you won't have those organic rankings or sales history that a lot of the other products that are focused on Prime Day are going to have. So when it comes to reviews, we all know it. When we're looking on Amazon, we're looking to buy something, reviews are super important. And nowadays, we not only expect brands to have reviews, we expect them to have good reviews, and we expect them to have a lot of reviews. So even if your product on Prime Day has a really strong promotional offer and a good discount, if a user goes and sees that maybe you only have 2 reviews and it's like a 4-star review, they're not going to look at that as positively as some of the other products that similarly have really good offers on them, but have a really big history of having positive reviews for their products. As well, as we mentioned before, when you look at Amazon's algorithm and how they're determining which products to show up on Prime Day towards the top of their results, they're going to look at sales history and sales velocity. And so if you're just launching a new product, you're going to kind of be playing behind the 8 ball if you're using a brand new product that doesn't have any sales history. So in general, you could see some success. You'll definitely get some sales for new products by launching on Prime Day and having a Prime Day strategy for new products. But we would recommend against it because really you're going to want to focus on products with strong reviews and strong sales history. Another option is boosting the spend on Prime Day behind some of your products that maybe aren't your best sellers, but they're still, in the middle of the pack, solid options, or as we call them here, Longtail products. So this is definitely an option, and you'll tend to see pretty good success, especially on the day of Prime Day. And so what we often see is brands say take maybe 10 to 15 of their products and put smaller promotions on them, so smaller discounts. And what they'll see is a decent boost to sales specifically on Prime Day, which I think is a good thing. If you have specific sales goals, whether it's for the month or for the year, you can utilize this approach and see a little bit of success. But really, what I want to do here is compare it to the next one, which is our more preferred and recommended option, which would be Accelerate. You'll see the difference here. Basically, this one, we have like 10 to 15 products that are middle of the pack performers that drive some good sales but aren't your best products on Amazon. Comparing that to focusing on 1 or 2 or 3 products that are your best sellers, you'll notice that the difference is huge. So while you're going to have solid results the day of and maybe like the week after Prime Day by just boosting a small little boost to 10 or so products, you're going to get a lot bigger impact by focusing your efforts on a smaller selection of your best sellers. And so, like I mentioned, here is what we really recommend: accelerating the sales of a few of your top performing products. And so there's a couple reasons why you want to do this, but to really simplify it, I think it's great to give an example of really what we typically see for the last couple of Prime Days, the different outcomes for each of these strategies. So comparing accelerating, we'll call it 3 of your top performing products versus just kind of a little small boost to 10 other products that aren't as high as sellers. So basically what we typically see is we'll take the example of you have 10 products that do about $100 a day in sales. You also have 3 products that do about $1,000 a day in sales. What we typically see when we use the boosting strategy that we talked about previously is by putting small promotions on those 10 products, we might be able to increase sales from $100 a day to say $200 to $300 a day. And maybe that's a little bit high, but the actual benefit long term isn't as high. So we'll call it $300 a day. Compared to in the accelerated strategy, where we have 3 products that are each doing $1,000 a day, with a really strong Prime Day strategy, we can actually make the sales per day for those 3 products be maybe $3,000 a day or so, right? And so you can see there's a huge impact. The impact is just a lot bigger across the smaller number of products because you focused your dollars around a smaller number of products, so they have more room to really grow. But as well, those are your top performers, so they typically are going to have the better reviews. They're going to have really good sales history to start with, and it's just we know that those are areas where Amazon has shown historically that these are good products. They want to promote these. These are going to show up in the top spots organically and likely, if you're doing paid advertising as well, these are products that have worked time and time again. So by using this strategy of selecting a couple products and really focusing your dollars there, you're going to see a much bigger overall impact in sales because of the things that Sam talked about previously, like that flywheel effect. You can really open that up across these smaller number of products. In the long term, it's going to have a much bigger value. So now Sam's going to talk through an assortment strategy and really talk about what factors are we looking at when we work with brands to determine which product should they actually select. We just talked about the need to really focus your efforts across a smaller number of products, but how do you actually go about determining which product should you focus on? Sam's going to go through some internal and external factors that we like to look at when working with brands to select the products that they should promote on Prime Day.
All right, perfect. So step 1 is really understanding and defining all of those internal variables. So these are really the business variables that are not at all dependent or related on Amazon. And I think also, I would say when you're answering each of these questions, you shouldn't necessarily be thinking about Amazon only. You should be thinking about how does this affect Amazon, but also how does this affect kind of the greater business. So we'll kind of at a high level go through each one of these. I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but really from the mindset of what Jake explained earlier of kind of driving that long-term growth, that's kind of how you want to be perceiving each one of these questions. So the first one is, defining your internal goals. So do you have, specific category or line goals within your assortment? Do you have specific goals for individual products that you really need to meet this year? So I think that's really important, especially when looking at all of those different objectives that Jake just laid out, is understanding how each of those goals could potentially play into the most effective strategy. So if we were to look at the accelerate strategy, you're probably going to be focusing on kind of your top performers. So what are your goals for those top performers? Or if you're going for more of a liquidation strategy, kind of understanding what is the timeline for liquidation, what are the total number of units that need to be moved through, different things like that. So kind of starting this exercise with understanding those goals is a really good way to kind of begin the process of understanding your assortment strategy. The next piece here is profitability. As we mentioned earlier, this is not a time frame to be thinking about having a really great bottom line. You want to be thinking about kind of the long-term growth that you're going to see from this and the kind of long-term profitability that you're going to gain, as opposed to just what that one day is going to bring to you. But understanding that, profitability is important and everybody has to get things approved and understand the different discounts that are going to be given for lightning deals, coupons, advertising, ACOS, different things like that are very important to be understood as you kind of go into this time frame. The next piece is key. It's kind of the inventory level. So you want to make sure not only can you support the specific deals and the spike in sales that you're going to get during Prime Day, but also afterwards. So if everything goes correct and let's say we use that accelerate model and strategy, we're going to see a big spike on Prime Day that we need to make sure that we can support from an inventory standpoint. But we also need to make sure that long term, if we continue to sustain higher amounts of sales than we did previous to Prime Day, which is the goal, can we continue to support that from an inventory standpoint? So if the answer is no, then you might not be able to include that specific product or line within your overall strategy. The next piece is kind of defining a long-term plan. And this is a little bit more product or category specific. So if your goal is to discontinue an item in the next 12 months, it may not make sense to align a larger amount of budget with that product. So I think that's a really important thing to understand, and it kind of goes along with the next piece of defining kind of a high-level budget. So this is a really difficult thing to do, and as you go through Prime Day each year, you get better at kind of understanding what a good budget is for your business, and it's going to be completely different based on the size of your catalog, your category, and kind of other external factors. But this really does play into kind of everything that we've discussed so far. If you think about it from the long-term plan perspective and all of the different objectives that Jake laid out, if you do want to liquidate something, that is going to take a portion of your budget to be able to do that. So you're then not going to be able to put additional money towards accelerating products. So there's definitely some give and take, and you have to make some decisions as to where different pieces of your budget are going to be going. So once you kind of define those business variables that are kind of outside of Amazon, the next piece is really to analyze all of the data at your disposal for Amazon. So there's a ton of different areas we can use here. Amazon is somewhat withholding with kind of their information that they provide, but there's a lot of different data points that we can look at that help us to point us in the right direction of which products we should be leveraging. And another caveat to this is that Seller Central data is going to be a little bit different than Vendor Central data. So knowing kind of the differences between all the different metrics that you have between those two platforms is key as well. So we've kind of broken this into two different areas here. We've got the data from last year, 2018 in this case, and then the data from year-to-date 2019. So on the left-hand side, last year's data, we want to look at what are the products that sold the best during July, and then specifically Prime Day and Prime Week of 2018. So really looking back, hopefully if you have Area Basic on Vendor Central, you save that data, or if you have Premium, you'll be able to look back and look at that as well. But really understanding what were the top performers during that time frame. The next piece is understanding your deal performance. So if you ran deals last year, make sure that you learn from them. Very rarely are 100% of your deals that you run going to be successful. So looking at your coupons, looking at your lightning deals, your best deals, whatever different promotions that you ran, understanding which ones spent the full amount of budget, which ones do you see the highest ROI from, and then also analyzing the lift that you saw post deal. So what did the BSR look like long term? Kind of how do those different percentages off affect kind of that long term sales velocity? Black Friday, Cyber Monday is always a good thing to look at as well. Usually you run deals during those timeframes too, so there's things to be learned there. I think the consumers have a little bit of a different intent during this time frame, but it's still really valuable data when it comes to analyzing different promotions. Additionally, always look at your advertising data. This is going to inform your advertising strategy, obviously, but then there's also going to be other key metrics in here, click-through rates, conversion rates that really help you to understand which ones are going to be your top performers during this time frame. And lastly, if you do have Seller Central data, or if you have ARA Premium, kind of understanding what do the traffic and conversion data look like from this time frame. I would say out of everything here, this is probably the least important data point, but it's just another thing that you can kind of arm yourself with to understand which items could be the best performers. Now, switching things over to year-to-date data, the reason why this is so important is that things on Amazon change constantly. So the items that sold really well July of last year could be completely different than what's being sold well, year to date. And seasonality may play in that based on, your business and how seasonal it is. But it's very important to understand, what has been sold year to date, and then getting a little bit closer to Prime Day, what has been sold in Q2 if you're looking at kind of different advertising efforts, coupons, things like that you're able to run a little bit closer to Prime Day. So analyzing those pieces is probably the most important. Obviously, if you've ran any promotions during Q1 or Q2, looking to see how those performed, looking again at that conversion and traffic data from this time frame, advertising data. And then another key thing is to look at your bestseller ranks. So this is going to help you to understand how does your product stack up against other products within your category. And I think it's also really good to take note of kind of what your BSR is before Prime Day, and then again looking at it afterwards, because this is just another data point that you're going to be able to measure to understand kind of the effectiveness of the different promotions that you run. So to kind of recap all of this, the overall goal here is to take both of these steps, first looking at kind of internal business variables, and then second looking at kind of your overall Amazon variables and the different metrics that you have at your disposal, taking both of those pieces, putting them together, analyzing your catalog, and then coming up with the products that you think are going to fit best with the objective that you have for Prime Day. So I think doing that objective exercise first, understanding if you want to accelerate, boost, liquidate, whatever your strategy may be, and then kind of layering these two steps in over that is going to be able to kind of drive you in the right direction and make it apparent which products you should be advertising or promoting. All right, so the next piece is building your action plan. So once we have our assortment strategy, we understand our objective, we've got all of this different information. Now it's kind of the time to put it into action. So what we're showing here is a Prime Day graph that's kind of an ideal situation. So this is a sales graph. You can kind of take this as an example of what one product on Amazon would look like in the weeks before and the weeks after Prime Day. So what's really important to take away from this is that this is kind of the ideal curve that we're looking for. Leading up to Prime Day, you'll see kind of those gradual increases in sales. You're going to have that big spike on Prime Day. And then really the goal after Prime Day is to, obviously sales are going to decrease a good amount, but to be able to kind of gain that residual value and have kind of a long-term increase in sales velocity over time. So just to preface it, I mean, the other webinars that are going to be going on during this 2-day summit are going to dive more specifically into these different areas, looking at kind of all the different tactics, strategies that you can take to kind of accomplish what this graph is showing. But what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break it down at a high level, the before, during, and after timeframes to show basically the different tactics that you can utilize. So if we look at the before timeframe, really, you should be obviously prepared for lightning deals. Those are due on May 10th this year. So you have to basically get those in this week in order to be able to run those deals. But then also there's kind of a lot of other promotions that you can plan for as well. So really what we recommend is 2 to 4 weeks prior to that Prime week, whenever Amazon announces that, you're going to want to increase your advertising spend kind of across your whole account. I mean, in general, Prime Day becomes extremely competitive. Cost per clicks increase significantly, and you want to make sure that you're staying relevant, you're staying competitive with all the other people within your category. So across the board, it's important to kind of understand the benefit of increasing bids within your advertising campaigns, increasing your budgets, different things like that. And then also you're going to start to add some focus specifically on items that you're going to be promoting. So let's say we're running in a deal, a lightning deal on our top seller on Prime Day. We want to make sure that we're putting extra focus on that item leading up to Prime Day to make sure that we're increasing that sales velocity. Something that Jake hit on a little bit earlier is that when Amazon looks at a product and is placing it kind of within the thousands of other lightning deals on Prime Day, they're looking at things like recent sales velocity, reviews, different things like that. So if we can really increase that sales velocity leading up to the deal, we're going to get better placement within the search results on that deals page. So that's very important. The last piece here that we would recommend in the before section would be potentially running some coupons or other off Amazon traffic tactics. So this again is just to get the conversion rate up, get the click-through rate up, and kind of influence that sales velocity as we lead up to the big day. So now if we jump into the during time frame, so this is a little bit more obvious. I mean, this is where you're going to be running your big deals. So your lightning deals are going to be scheduled during this time frame. Amazon doesn't allow you to really control that. They kind of just give you the specific time within when your 6-hour deal will run. You'll have your best deals, different things like that as well. What's really important here is to make sure that you're most focused on your advertising within this time frame. Again, you're probably going to need to increase your bids and your budgets and really have additional focus on those items that you're placing your promotions on, and overall just keeping a very close eye on kind of different performance during this time frame. And then after, again, kind of looking at it from a 2 to 4 week period, we're going to want to make sure that we're still supporting these items after Prime Day. What we don't want to do is have all of our promotions that land on Prime Day and then just cut off all spend, promotions, everything all together, because then we're really not going to be able to accomplish that residual value that we've been talking about a lot here. So what we're going to want to do here is continue to support via advertising, having extra focus on those promotional items, and then also making sure that we're running some coupons and other deals to continue to kind of promote those key items.
So to summarize really our thoughts on how to have a successful Prime Day strategy and how to make sure that you don't only have success on the day of Prime Day, but also the months afterwards, we've really summarized it into 4 main points. So first of all, think long term. I know we've said that a lot during this webinar, but really you don't want to view this as a one-day thing. Sam just went through really what could be like a 3-month process leading up to and after Prime Day. So make sure that you take the steps to have things in place that can happen before, during, and after Prime Day, so you can really feel the residual effects of that big increase in sales during Prime Day. As well, you want to commit to an objective or strategy. So what you don't want to do, and what we see brands do sometimes, is really not come to the table and do this exercise of what are we trying to accomplish. If you just go, okay, we're going to throw some random promotions across different products that we haven't really thought about, you won't really see as good of results. And you definitely won't see that long-term residual effect that we continue to talk about. So look at the different objectives and strategy options out there and figure out the one that works best for you and your brand. Then once you've done that, make sure you choose the right product. So Sam went through a lot of different factors or variables or inputs that we can look at. So whether it's things that are internal, specific to your business, or if it's things that you can get from Amazon, like looking at past results from promotions, past advertising performance, looking at your BSRs for the specific products within your catalog, whatever it is, look at all those different variables and make sure that you choose the right products that are right for your business and that line up to the objective or strategy that you picked before. And then lastly, once again, develop an action plan. So all these things should tie together, but you want to make sure that you pick the right objective for your business, pick products that match that objective, and then develop a long-term plan that will help you not only be successful on the day of Prime Day, but help you really feel that residual effect in the months following Prime Day. Thanks so much for joining us today. This was developing a data-driven Prime Day strategy. This was Jake. I was joined with Sam, and hope you guys have a great day. See you.